All right. Hey, everybody. This is Lance Grove from Grove 1031. We're going to give everybody about one more minute to pile in here, and then we're going to go over 1031 exchanges. But we're going to try to answer a few questions related to complex exchanges. A lot of people have been asking about those, specifically reverse exchanges. And I guess they're asking about that because people are finding things that they want to get into, but they're as not yet ready to sell the things that they currently have. So let's just give it one more minute, and then we're going to get everything started. First of all, hello, everybody. This is Lance Grove from Grove 1031. For those who don't know me, we work with Grove 1031, and we're a 1031 exchange accommodating company. We facilitate 1031 exchanges. So today, what we want to do is just go through the basics briefly, talk about complex exchanges, mainly a reverse exchange, and try to explain to people exactly how does it work, because we've been getting a lot of questions about reverse 1031 exchanges. General information, if you guys ever want to give us a call, our number is very simple, 619-991-1031. Give us a call at any time. We try to operate as a support system for real estate investors and agents just to answer questions that they may be uncertain of. So give us a call anytime. We'll be glad to help. Now, this is the verbatim definition of what a 1031 exchange is, because oftentimes people, they get reminded like, hey, you need to do a 1031 exchange from their escrow company, which your real estate agents and brokers are supposed to do that. But sometimes they get reminded and then they're left Googling, what is the 1031 exchange? And they may pull up some random information or some random comment online. But this is the verbatim definition of what a 1031 exchange is from the U.S. Internal Revenue Code. And it is a section of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code that allows investors to defer capital gains on an exchange of like-kind properties held for business or investment purposes. Nah, we're not going to go over 121 today, but I will give you guys just a brief example of exactly why is a 1031 exchange so important. And it's simply this. It's let's say we all purchase a piece of property. We all pay about 100K for the property. And as time elapses, then the property grows in value. 10 years go by, and now someone wants to purchase that property for about $1 million. So everybody's excited because this is a 900,000 profit. Everybody is saying to themselves, we put in 100K, now this guy wants to buy it for 1 million. Oh my God, we're going to make $900,000. But what everyone is not thinking about is the moment that they sell that property, number of taxes are triggered. The first tax is called your estate tax. Second is what's called your federal tax. Third is your depreciation recapture tax. And last is your Medicare tax. Now, all of these taxes blended together constitute a blended average of roughly 30 to 33%, specifically if this property is located in California or New York, which has probably some of the highest tax liability. Now, 30 to 33%, you find out about that around tax time. But if you did a 1031 exchange, you could avoid that. Now, in this scenario that we've highlighted, we have 100K investment, $1 million sell, 900 profit. That 30 to 33% looks something like this. So this is why a 1031 exchange is very important, because you can keep all of that money, or if you don't do a 1031 exchange, you can pay that $320,000. You invested 100K, so for $1 million, 900 profit, but you have to kick up $320,000 if you do not do a 1031 exchange. So this is why a 1031 exchange is extremely important. And here's your brief rundown of the process. When you're listing a property, this isn't a necessity, but you can place into the language of the marketing, hey, buyer acknowledges that this transaction is part of a 1031 exchange, a buyer agrees to cooperate. It's not a requirement. It's more of a legal etiquette to put people on notice, like, hey, we're going to be doing a 1031 exchange, so you may receive some extra documentation. The biggest thing right here, I should put this thing in red, contact your accommodator as soon as you open escrow or as soon as you get under contract. That's the most significant thing, because too many times people call us too late, where we can't do anything for them. The taxable implications have already occurred. And we try to tell people the moment you accept an offer, the moment you open escrow, the moment you get under contract, call your accommodator, because if you do that too late, as in when escrow closes, there's really nothing we can do. And as soon as we step in, escrow closes, that's when you have your ID period. That's when the exchange truly starts for things to get moving. Now I'm going to run through just these quick basics with you guys, just so everyone understands. All right, well, how does a 1031 exchange work? The first question you ask is, does a property qualify? The second question you ask is, how do you defer the taxes that you've incurred? The third question you ask, and probably the singular most important question, is, how long is this ID period? And the last question you have to ask is, okay, how long do I have to conduct this entire exchange? How long do I have to facilitate this transaction to protect me from 33% of capital gains tax? Now, the first question we said, what properties qualify for a 1031 exchange? And a property qualifies if it is held for business or investment purposes. And that's simple. If you live in a property, that's your residential home that you live in, it does not qualify. But it could be the same residential home, you don't live in there, you let somebody else live in there, they pay you income for that, meaning you're utilizing this property for business or investment purposes, and the property qualifies. Simple as that. But if you do have any questions like, well, how do I know? Always ask this question. What was the intent? Was your intent to purchase this property to live in? It does not qualify. Was your intent to purchase this property to gain income from it? Then it qualifies. Now, when you're doing a 1031 exchange, you're exchanging into like-kind properties, but sometimes people get that confused. Like-kind properties is not like-kind in terms of structure. For instance, you see the 3-unit building. If you have a 3-unit building, doesn't mean you have to exchange into another 3-unit building. You can go from a 3-unit building to an office space into raw land into some multi-unit building. The only thing that has to remain like-kind is intent. Are you still utilizing this property for business or investment purposes? So that's the first question. Does a property qualify? Yes, if it is held for business or investment purposes. The second question is, how do you defer your capital gains tax? Two simple things. Just keep this in mind. When you're selling this property, you have to reinvest all of the funds into a new property at equal or greater in value. Simple as that. Now, here's kind of an understanding of that, because the focus is what's called your net sales price, which is everything after your non-reoccurring closing costs. So let's say you sell for $500 after your title fees, agent fees, attorney's fees, accommodations fees. Let's say you're at $450. So $450 is your benchmark that you have to purchase to defer 100% of your capital gains tax. The common issues that pop up from this is simple. People ask, well, what if I don't reinvest all of my cash? In the last example, we ended up at 450. So let's say we reinvested at 400. Great. 400,000 would be completely tax deferred. The 50,000 that we fell short, we'll pay taxes on. It's a partial exchange. And the other question we commonly get is, do I have to replace my debt? The same example, you sell for 450, but in this example, pretend that we paid off a mortgage of 200,000, which is very common, by the way. So you sell for 450, you pay off your mortgage of 200,000, meaning you only have 250,000 left. But because your net sales price was 450, you're going to have to purchase at 450 to defer all of your capital gains tax. Even if you only have 250,000 cash, that typically means you'll probably have to get a new loan, because most people just don't have 200,000 laying around. So it was common that people replace their debt, but it doesn't have to be debt. You can get cash out of pocket, cash from a friend, add cash to the transaction, whatever means you feel necessary, just as long as you hit that threshold that you sold at. And the last question we always get is, can I purchase multiple properties? Absolutely. You sell one property for 450, you can go and buy 3 smaller size properties that total 450. Doesn't matter the structure, just as long as your name is on title to as much real estate as you sold. Any questions at this point? This is the most quiet I've seen in here. It's very awkward. Now I feel like I'm talking to myself, but I do that often, so it's okay. Any questions you guys have during this, please feel free, and I'll make sure I'll answer them as we go. Now, this is probably the most important rule with a 1031 exchange right now, because, it's tough to find properties, even though there's a lot of inventory on the market. So it's probably reversed right now because of high interest rates. But tomorrow we're getting that solved. The federal government is coming out and it's expected they're going to reduce by 25 to 50 basis points. I am very excited because there are so many deals stalled because of high interest rates. So let's hope that works. The third rule is once you close escrow, you have 45 days to identify a new property. That's 45, Jesus, calendar days. It has to be in writing, unambiguous. The identification process, the way it works is simple. We provide you a form that says, hey, please fill in the address, sign it, put the price, get it back to us. As a last resort, we'll accept an email clearly identifying that that's your identification for the property you relinquish, but we like you to use our form, put a lot of work into that. And you don't have to make an offer. You don't have to be under contract. It's literally address, price, signature, hand it to your accommodator. ID, period, done. Now, the two ways of identifying is called the 3-property rule and a 200% rule. Under the 3-property rule, it's simple. You only have 3 options that you can identify. And I always tell people, use all 3. It's important. But the caveat is it can be as expensive as you want. So same example, we sold for 450. Identify one property for 4 million, 10 million, 8, whatever. As long as you get over the 450 mark, you're good. But like I said, use all 3 because that's all you have for your 45 day. And if the one that you were hyped up on fails to get financing, you only have 2. Or fails inspections, you only have 1. So use all 3 because things do happen. We live in the middle of things do happen. And that's our life. So trust me when I tell you, use all 3. But if 3 options isn't enough, you can use what's called the 200% rule. Now, under this rule, as it reads, you can identify an unlimited number of properties provided that the aggregated sum does not exceed 200% of your initial sales price. So to all your mathematicians out there, give you guys a quick quiz. Under this rule, if I sell for $1 million, but I can only purchase in increments of 400,000, how many properties can I identify before I violate this rule? Go. Wait for the answer. I need that Jeopardy music. Doom, 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 doom. What do we got there? 7. Incorrect. No. Under this rule, the 200% rule, you can identify an unlimited number of properties provided that the aggregated sum does not exceed 200% of your initial sales price. So if we sold for $1 million, but we can only purchase in increments of 400,000, how many properties can we identify before we violate this rule? I'm going to give you guys another 20 more Jeopardy seconds. Doom, doom, doom. 8. No. Oh my God. This is the longest I've taken in a group to get the right answer. Keep going. Nope. Keep going. 5 is the correct answer. 5, correct. So we are going to keep going. And why is it 5? Because 400,000 times 5 is 2 million. 2 million is 200% of 1 million. Simple and plain. I can't believe somebody always gets it. You guys needed to study in math class. Anyway, this is my favorite section, the but what if section. People always ask, well, what if I want a different property after day 45? Sorry. Again, pay your taxes. You can get any property you want, except you're paying your taxes now. It's a very hard and fast rule. It's midnight on the 45th day. People ask, well, what if I give it to you on day 46, but you just put on the paper 45? And I tell them, no problem, as long as you plan to send me money in jail, because that's fraud. It's a very strict rule. So here's actually a small caveat. Communicate with your buyer, because when does that 45-day rule start? When does the clock start ticking for you to identify properties? 45 days when escrow closes. So if you want more time on your 45, talk to your buyer. Hey, I'm doing the 1031 exchange. I know we have a 30-day escrow, but can we put a clause that if by day 29, I don't find our properties, I get 10 more days in escrow, 20 more days in escrow. Place some contingencies in there. Come on, agents, get creative. Okay. Anyway, Your only other option is if there's a presidential disaster declaration where the property lies, and that's literally Hurricane Katrina coming, blowing up everything except the property, the area being declared a national state of emergency, and then, yes, you will have more time. That's your other option. So speak to your buyers. It's very good. Now, the last rule of a 1031 exchange is simple. Concurrently, don't think you have 45 days and then 180. You have 45 days and 180 starts concurrently. Basically, at the close of escrow, you have 180 days to conduct this entire exchange. That means as soon as your name gets off title, you have 180 days to get your name on title. Simple and plain. So those are the basics of a 1031 exchange. So a quick review. What properties qualify for a 1031 exchange? Properties held for business or investment purposes. How do I defer all of my taxes? Simple and plain. You have to reinvest all of your cash into a property of equal or greater in value. At the close of escrow, just know you're going to have 45 days to identify or replace a property. At the close of escrow, you're going to have 180 days to conduct this entire exchange. Simple and plain. Now, complex exchanges. This is a fun area. Very, very fun area. This is the number one area that we've been getting questions on. Reverse exchange. You know why? Because everybody wants to purchase before they sell. Like I said, we used to have an inventory issue, but now there's so many things on the market where it's like, no, we want to jump into this deal before we even sell it, because people can't find financing, and it's doable. People always ask the question, well, can I purchase before? Yes, you can, but here's the fun rule. Purchase the property first, you sell after. First rule, your client's name cannot be on both pieces of property at the same time. Completely disqualifies you. You want to sell the property, but you want to purchase a property first, and then when you purchase that property and you finally sell your property, you still want to get the tax, the tax benefit, which is, by the way, very greedy of you guys. Just thought I'd put that out there. Anyway, it is doable, but that rule right there, if you buy that property, get your name on title, you're completely disqualified. So it all happens in reverse. What you have to do is the moment you open escrow on the property you plan on purchasing, you call us immediately. And in a delayed exchange, you can call us when you open escrow. Call us in the middle of it. Just as long as you don't call us the day of closing, the week of closing, give us a call. I prefer a call us the moment you open escrow, so we're not rushing. But with a reverse exchange, you need to call us immediately, because what we have to do is we have to assign your contract over to an entity, and that entity we have to go and create, whichever state, which may take days, sometimes weeks, especially during COVID. And then we have to have that entity take title to your property so that you don't have your name on both pieces of properties at the same time. What we then do is give you what's called a master lease, which gives you all the benefits and burdens of the contract, meaning the entity takes title to the property. You can't be an entity holder. You just have a master lease on the entity. Problem solved. By the way, that's called a shell company. In case one of my finance guys were sitting there, hey, that sounds familiar. It's a shell company. Okay, so we create that, entity takes title. But here's a bit of an issue. We become the buyer. Simple, as in the entity. Now, we become the buyer. Here's the biggest issue. Financing is very difficult, because if you plan to take a loan to do this, think about it. Traditional loans wants to secure the loan with the property, but you don't own the property. The entity does. So reverse exchanges are typically done with hard money, where they don't need to secure the loan. They just give you extremely high rates, or you have to have all cash. And then everything happens in reverse. You basically, boom. As soon as escrow closes, you have 45 days to tell us what property you're going to sell. You have 180 days to actually sell that property. Everything happens in reverse. It's just you're going to need cash. You're going to have to be very diligent on time. And it's a bit of a headache. Not the funnest thing to do. So anyway, These are the basics of a 1031 exchange, and these are the basics of reverse. And we're even going to leave you guys with this. For agents and brokers, we always like to tell people, target more investors because it's becoming a necessity. If you have a title officer, have them run these searches, find properties where they've been owned for about 27 years, because if the properties have a 27.5, that means the property is fully depreciated, and these people need to get into new properties. For you agents, have your title run those searches. Tell them about this. Trust me, they'll be very happy for the call. If you're looking for investors, have your title officers search in areas where they have more than 4 or 5. When you see one name on more than 4 or 5 pieces of property, why? Or 2 or 3? Because it's more than likely the person is living in one and using the other 2, 3, 4, 5 as investment properties. And then find properties where the owner of the property lives out of state. It's more than likely the person uses as investment properties. All my investment properties are outside of California. So that's the basic of a 1031 exchange. Oh my God. 1, you guys did not get that answer correct. 2, there's been no questions on this, which is psychotic. You guys must be extremely smart. What we're still going to do is give you guys a follow-up call. And if you guys want to give us a call, as I said, our number is very simple, 619-991-1031. Or you can email us at info@growth1031.com or lance@growth1031.com. So give us a call. Thank you guys all for attending. And